To Kill a Mockingbird on 4K Blu-ray 60th Anniversary Edition. Here's my review and thoughts. So a major question if you're getting the 4K is it better than the Blu-ray? And then another question if you're getting the 4K 60th Anniversary Limited Edition, is it worth it? Typically it's about $5 more than the normal one, so you tell me. I already did a super unboxing here, so you got the movie, and then you have a big old piece of film. There you go. That looks pretty cool. It's in like a really hard, thick cardboard. Then there's some like glossy poster things, and then a booklet that's about yay thickness. So yeah, it's about $5 more. So if you think that's worth it to get all that extra stuff, if you don't, then just get this version. So from the opening scene where you're seeing all these tiny little objects and you get to see it black and white, I realized that the 4K was really great with all the fine detail and all these little objects in her little toy box. And the black and white, the black levels and the contrast are really good on here. So I paused it on this whistle. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can. There's totally a fingerprint on the side of this whistle. So the detail is incredible. The Blu-ray looks pretty good too, but the 4K is absolutely a step up. Look at this beautiful shot here. Here comes one of my favorite lines in the whole movie that he says.
Every time I want to do something, he's too old. He's too old for anything. He can do...
That hit me pretty hard this time. That feels like me. His son's like, every time I want to do anything, he says too old. And I'm just like, oh, is that me? Am I telling my kids I'm too old to do stuff with them? Anyway, that line really, really hit me, and I think it's funny.
You be good, children. Mind Carol. Morning, Morty.
Morning, Atticus.
He just walks by and just hears them all out there talking about him. Okay, so I just want to really address the Blu-ray versus the 4K really quick. So it's an absolutely huge difference. The black levels look a lot better. There's still a lot of grain in the 4K, but it has a nice moving structure, so it doesn't look like they scrubbed it out. And the 4K is a huge upgrade, and it looks a lot more theatrical. So huge upgrade. The sound, I think, is the same sound as the Blu-ray. Sounds fine, but the visual is a huge upgrade and definitely worth it.
You won't let me have a gun?
Yeah, I wouldn't let you have a gun either. My goodness, how old is this kid? Wants a gun? Different times, I guess. All right, so I noticed this when Jim comes running back after he recovers his pants from the fence. And he covers up her mouth. Watch the back of her head. Slams her head into the back of the wall. It's like, dang. I mean, she's probably okay, but it's like, I wonder if they wanted him to be that rough in that scene. What really stood out to me this time is just how amazing of a person Atticus Finch is. And I had a college professor that says that he ruined her. So the reason she never got remarried is because she was trying to find Atticus Finch and she never could. But he has some amazing traits and features and lines that make him a really good person, but also a really good dad. And right here's one of them. I love this.
There's a lot of ugly things in this world, son. I wish I could keep them all away from you. That's never possible.
Wow. Again, this movie's just hitting me hard every time throughout the whole thing. Like, I know my kids were liking it while I was making them watch it, but there was like those lines where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. My 7-year-old son was exposed to so many things that I didn't learn about till a lot later, and like at school or friends or whatever. And man, I wish I could keep you from all this ugliness out there, but you can't. I think this scene where Atticus puts down the wild dog is another awesome character moment. So he goes out there and the kids are like, oh no, he can't shoot. And this guy's like, I'm not going to do it. I can't hit it. And he's like, I'd feel a lot more comfortable if you did. And so the kids have no idea that Atticus can shoot. Atticus says he hasn't shot a gun in years, which implies that he has. And then once he does hand him the gun, you can tell that he knows how to handle it. And he gets a really good stance. He gets a really good stance. See him, and I'll show you here in a second, but he gets his cheek on the buttstock, and he gets his glasses out of the way so he can headbutt, bud. So he can take a good shot. And he does it, and he does a really good job. He gets the job done. He doesn't take any pleasure in killing the dog. And when he's done, he hands the rifle back to the guy, and he just goes on and tells the kids to stay away from the dead body because it could still be dangerous. What's that face? My goodness. But what I really like about this scene that it shows about Atticus Finch is that he is capable of using a weapon or using a rifle, and he does use it, but he takes no pleasure in it, and he would rather not. But when it is time to use it, he absolutely does without hesitating. So I think that's a really awesome character trait, and that kind of reminds me of like Captain Kirk in the old Star Trek, where he would try to avoid violence if possible, but if he needed to use it, then he would. And I just think that's an amazing trait of Atticus Finch, but also of a man in general, is be capable of violence and destruction, but only as a last resort and only if necessary. So awesome character trait. I love that part. I'm going to go put this cute baby down and we'll look at it a little closer. Okay, we sent the baby back to its mothership. But look at this. Watch when he shoulders the rifle, and watch what he does with his head. He lifts it up and puts it down. He does it a couple times, and that's so he can get his cheek squished right onto the buttstock. Watch this. So you can tell he really knows what he's doing. See him adjust. Kids are super surprised. Walks right out there, puts it up his shoulder, gets his cheek on there. Anyways, firearm handling techniques here are impeccable and perfectly safe. As soon as he's done, he just points it back in a safe direction and hands it back to the guy, and then his kids are mind blown. Look at Jim's face, because they didn't think their dad could do that. Anyway, I've kind of beaten this one to death, but I love that scene. I think it's an amazing character scene, and I think it's a good trait, and they portrayed it very well. Here's another pretty incredible Atticus moment. This mob shows up. They have guns. He's sitting in front to protect him, and he says he's sleeping. Don't wake him. I just think he has an incredible amount of bravery to just maintain his cool in the face of this mob here. So speaking of Atticus being the most awesome human ever, so his kids show up to essentially protect him from the mob, and he keeps telling Jim to go home, go home, go home, and Jim's telling him no. And Atticus, instead of just escalating and just putting his foot down and saying, no, I said go home, you can tell he almost just lets the kid, he sees the wisdom in the kids being there, and he lets them, instead of just being like, oh man, all these guys are watching me, like I gotta like parent harder and get this kid out of here. He lets him stay, and then boop, she just totally disarms the mob by she starts talking to Mr. Cunningham and asking him stuff, and then he gets all ashamed. But the scene's awesome, just for his bravery, and then the kids being bold enough to stay there and protect their dad, and then the dad he basically standing down and respecting Jim's decision to stay there. Pretty awesome. So look at this interesting shot here when in the courtroom when Mayella is supposed to put her hand on the Bible. Look at her hand. Watch this.
Shall swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You see that?
Sit down, please.
You see anything? She was hovering. Her hand was hovering over the Bible. She maybe touched it a little bit, but it was definitely up in the air over that. Very interesting. So contrast that to when Tom puts his hand on the Bible. Watch this. See that? You can actually see the Bible physically dip down when he puts his hand on it. I think that's on purpose, and I think that's genius, symbolizing his truthful testimony and her untruthful testimony. All right, this guy that plays Tom, Brock Peters, first of all, in this movie, he's awesome. But I'm like, what else is he from? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's Admiral Cartwright from Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6. Pretty awesome. He looks the same age, 1962 to the 80s. No big deal. Hardly aged at all. He's great in those movies. He's great in here. Also, little known fact, and I bet you didn't know this, he plays the voice of Darth Vader in the Star Wars radio dramas. So James Earl Jones obviously does the movie voice, but he does the radio drama voice, and his voice for Darth Vader is great. So anyway, Brock Peters, he's awesome. So this part in the courtroom scene is pretty amazing filmmaking, where he's kind of giving his final argument to the jury, who, if we're standing right in front of him, then the jury would basically be right behind us. Or really, if you're in a theater, that you're basically in the jury as he's talking to the jury, so he's looking back and forth at the jury. But really what it's simulating is him talking to us as the audience and giving his amazing speech. And I think it's beautiful.
In the name of God, do your duty. In the name of God.
There you go. See?
Believe.
That's who he's been talking to. So, yeah, that's beautiful. His whole speech is basically to us as the audience. And then this is a pretty awesome above court shot there. There you go. After he goes and sits down. Look at that. That's another awesome shot. Here's the two kids' sad reactions on the guilty verdict. Aw, Jim. And then it's almost like a disbelief and horror. I think it's interesting. It shows the kids' reactions because the kids represent almost like common sense and innocence in the show. And so they just show you what a poor decision the jury just made. This part's pretty incredible and heartwarming, where the whole community there stands up in respect.
Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
That's awesome. Go Atticus. So the neighbor lady, I think her name's Morty, talking to Jim, talking about Atticus and just like what a man he is, about how people are born to do unpleasant jobs.
I don't know if it'll help, but I want to say this to you. There's some men in this world who are born to do our unpleasant jobs for us. Your father's one of them.
That's awesome. Just another example of Atticus Finch just doing jobs that no one wants to do and doing a good job of it. So this part where the little Ham and Jim are going through the forest and they're getting stalked, this part's actually really terrifying, and my 7-year-old at this point was pretty nervous. He kept trying to sneak away to go play Minecraft, and I told him he had to watch this movie with me because I wanted him to watch it. So I told him he's got to sit down and try and watch it and learn something like at school. I said, because this movie's important to me and I wanted him to watch it and learn something. And he was having a hard time because this part was scaring him, but also in general, he wanted to go play Minecraft. But I think he really started getting hooked into the story, especially with the kids' point of views. But yeah, this part in the forest is terrifying. Here's the reveal of Boo Radley.
Boo?
as the super young and smooth Robert Duvall. I was like, man, does he always just look old? I mean, it's like the young version of him, but it's like, he looks like he could be like 50 right there. And here's Atticus Finch showing what kind of dad he is, sitting there holding his daughter, sitting by Jim's bed. And she talks about, the narrator talks about how he's going to be waiting there all night and he's going to be there when Jim wakes up. And just watching him hold his daughter, it's like, oh, it just gets me. It's pretty awesome. And then there's a picture of his dead wife. But yeah, as the camera pulls away from the window, you see Jim's little hand there on the bed.
And he would be there when Jim waked up in the morning.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Atticus is amazing. He's a good dad. He's a good man. He's a good professional person, and he knows when to use violence and when to not use violence. Like when the guy spit on him and he just held back. So yeah, I think this movie is incredible for the things you can learn from it. It's also a really good movie, but just, you could study this and just be like, how could I be a better person, and just like look at Atticus Finch. Anyway, there's a great bunch of special features. There's some cringy bits in this part, but overall it's an awesome set and better than the Blu-ray, and friggin' love this movie, and I'm happy I could show it to my 7-year-old. The other kids kind of leaked away, and that's okay because they didn't really understand it anyway. But yeah, I loved it, enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this movie, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.